Hello and welcome to the first day of the Java developer training for dotCMS. My name is Oscar. I have been a Java developer for almost 10 years now. For today, I am looking forward to getting you all ramped up on some technical concepts and definition of dotCMS and simplify and clarify the setup process of a fully functional development environment. So the contents of this training are especially aimed to Java developers who want to build or integrate applications with dotCMS. They want to extend its functionality or features, and also for users who have complete knowledge of all of the dotCMS basic and advanced functions that were provided in the first dotCMS courses, and that they are looking to get their hands on the Java source code. I will provide an overview of the dotCMS architecture. I will set up the Eclipse environment. We will take a look across the dotCMS source code, some of the examples, and then the next days we are going to see more examples on the static and the dynamic plugins, among other technical topics. So as I was telling you, feel free to do the examples with me, and you can go ahead and do the examples on your local environments after the training is done following the videos. Feel free to do both of the options that we have here. Let's talk about the agenda in each of the days. We are planning on talking about the technology and the architecture overview. We're planning to show you kind of how the things work in dotCMS, as well as some of the dotCMS key concepts. We are going to talk about some database concepts, and if everything goes well, by the end of this session, you guys will be able to have your development environment set up locally in your computers. And we are talking about using the source code checkout from GitHub that you can import in Eclipse and have it debugging capabilities. This is not the official distribution, and I am going to talk a little bit about this in some minutes because it is important to understand the difference between the official dotCMS distribution and the source code, and what are the difference between those things and how they are going to behave in your local or in your production environments. For the day number 2, we are going to talk about the different ways that you can extend dotCMS. There are like 3 primary ways, and we are going to talk about those. Also, we are going to talk about the static plugins and what you can do with them. And for the last day, day number 3, we are going to talk about dynamic plugins that use the OSGI framework and what you can do and what you cannot do with this kind of plugins. And also, we're going to cover a few facts and tips to keep in mind when coding in our source code and in dotCMS infrastructure. The features that will be exposed in these trainings all 3 days can be accessed with the default community license, so you don't have to worry about needing any license setup before starting this training. Okay, so I told you about the difference between the official distribution and the source code. I want to take 5 minutes to talk about it. We have the official distribution, and that's what you are going to see when you download dotCMS from our main page. So if you go into dotcms.com, and if you click under the platform and download, for example, our latest release is 4.2.2. This tar or zip file that you download from this page is what we call official distribution of dotCMS. This is the distribution of dotCMS. And then we have the source code, that's what we are going to play in these trainings. If you go into the GitHub page, is github.com/dotcms/core. This is our core, our main our main source code of .cms, and you check out using Git, or if you clone it, or if you download from here, this is what we call the source code, and that's what we are going to play with in this training. Basically, the difference, let me just see if I have official distribution. I don't think I have the latest, but I have the previous one, 4.2.1. This is going to be the same thing. If we go ahead into the distribution, this is the official distribution. I downloaded from the main page of dotCMS. If you go ahead and go into this dotCMS star file or the zip file, you're going to see four main folders. It's going to be the bin folder. This folder is going to contain every script that you might need to in order to create WAR files, to start up or to shut down the dotCMS server, and several other scripts that we are going to take a look for the training. Also, we have documentations. Then we have the Tomcat folder inside this .server, and then we have the plugins. That is what we are going to use tomorrow in the training of the static plugins. This specific folder, the plugins ones. But one key difference between the source code and the official distribution is that we have the Tomcat folder bundle inside the distribution. And just with this difference, we have to be careful on how we handle things, because all the paths inside the scripts in the bin folder are pointed directly to this folder inside the .server. Also, we have different configurations, for example, the heap size or the memory, everything that we use for local, we use for the distribution, because mainly you are going to use this distribution in your production servers. So the configurations between the source code that is most used in local machines from the developers has to be different between the official distribution and the source code. So those are two key difference between the distribution, that's what we are looking right here, and the source code. Let me just go to the source code. Training core. This is what I downloaded from the GitHub page. We have the bin folder. This is going to be almost all. There are some extra scripts that we are going to take a look, but this is almost the same scripts that we have in the distribution. We have the documentation. This is the same folder. Then we have the dotCMS. And dotCMS, this is our main Gradle project from the source code. As you can see, we have all the things that we have in order to compile dotCMS in a jar file inside the dotCMS folder. And then we have some external libraries that we use for mostly for building dotCMS. So for example, the JDBC drivers for the database, the JSP jar files, and others jar that we need in order to build the dotCMS jar file in order to compile it. So as you can see, we don't have the Tomcat 8 inside our source code because it would take too much space that we don't need right now inside our source code. When we compile and when we deploy War Tomcat, those are two tasks that I'm going to talk in a little bit. We automatically download the Tomcat 8 folder that we have also in our repository of GitHub. So basically, the main difference between the distribution and the source code is the Tomcat 8 location. So with just that difference, we have to be careful with the things that we configure. For example, the scripts, other scripts, and also what we point and how we start and shut down the dotCMS instance. So basically, most of the things that we are going to see in examples in today's and the next 2 days, 3 days of training I'm going to talk about the source code and not about the official distribution. If there is a key difference, I'm going to point it out in order you to be aware what you have to do when you use the official distribution, mostly for production environments, and then what you have to do, the different things that you have to do when you are using the source code. So this is something that is maybe confusing for some clients, and it's important to understand the difference between the source code and the official distribution, and they don't work the same. So just to be aware of that. So that was the agenda.